Good afternoon, Trump's family. Thank you for always watching and subscribing to the channel. Every channel subscribe is my motivation to work harder. Alright, now we will come to today's news. And it looks like Joe Biden is having trouble with the media once again. Of course, they are gunning for him where they want to ensure that he won't run for re-election. And of course, they are going to move to force him to resign. So Biden is having all kinds of trouble right now. And of course, the CNN media vultures are out circling the carcasses of the Democrat Party. See them pass a panel blast Biden regime for lying about the definition of a recession. Right? That's right. They refuse to admit that we are in a recession. We've been in recession for a while now. But they're trying to redefine what a recession is. And they don't want to use the R word. And so they're trying to work their way around it and trying to gaslight Americans and saying, no, we're not in a recession. We're not in a recession. We are in a recession. Right. So even CNN can't hide this fact. Says, when it's bad, when seen as calling out the buying regime lies by regime is actually trying to redefine the term recession. Joe Biden on Monday straight up denied us is going to a recession. We're not going to be in a recession. In my view, Biden said, rattling off his talking points, that the US is going to go from rapid growth to steady growth. And dude's loss anyway. Looking at Guy, White House press secretary, the diversity hire, says Karine Jean-Pierre told reporters on Monday she wanted to find what a recession. I'm not going to define that from here. GDP. The GDP shrank by 1.6% in the first quarter of 2022. The Atlantic Federal Reserve announced earlier this month the second quarter of 2022 saw a GDP minus of 2.1%. The binding regime is gaslighting Americans and claiming we're merely in a unique transition. And seeing them pana was a bind the regime lies, you can't fake this. This is what they haven't say. Let's take listen. Canel Crystal Liza, inflation affects every American directly. The Biden administration is trying to point out the difference. The definition of our recession is nuanced. But I gotta tell you, I struggle with this. I get that why they want to do it from a political perspective. But you can't fake this. No, I was laughing to myself with the in my view thing that Caitlin highlighted, because it's well, in my view, I should be drafted into the NBA, NBA executive wouldn't agree with this. It doesn't really matter what you think there is a technical definition, 2 straight quarters of negative economic growth. They clearly believe that is likely to come to pass later this week. They're trying to preach about it. To your point, we get why they're doing it politically, right? At the same time, we have these terms for reasons you don't have to like it. Of course, they don't like it because Joe Biden land textbook Joe Biden's handling of the economy was at 25 or 30%. In our most recent poll, it's a problem for them. This adds to the problem. But you don't get to change the nomenclature in the middle of a campaign because it doesn't work for you well, and again, your voters are going to feel what they feel in their life exactly, no matter what panel. So there you go. They can blast the Biden regime for, of course, gaslighting Americans and gaslighting everyone that's even paying attention to this regime any longer. And I don't know how many people are, but people understand. They go out and they see they pay more for food, they pay for more for services, they're paying more for energy, they're paying more for everything across the board. And that is a fact. And that is what is driving people to go to the polls, and they will be voting Republican over Democrats because Democrats are currently have power in the Senate and account in the House and, of course, the presidency. So they are going to go and vote for a change of leadership. And hopefully a change in leadership would do this very well. Okay, and now, definitely be here, we're going to talk about Trump's return to Washington, D.C., CNN, Trump returns to a city tarnished by his legacy with an eye on 2024. Now I want you to pay attention to this, ladies and gentlemen, and share this segment with anyone who thinks that there's no reason to vote for Trump, or anyone who doesn't understand why Donald Trump will get around half the electorate every time he runs, either over half or around half the electorate. No, less than half the electorate. Okay. U.S. median income 2019. Record high. So you can look CNN median income, this was 2 years ago, hit record high in 2019. Reuters US median income hit record high 68,700 is down. But what 4,000 from the record high? Okay. Household income. Real median household income was at record highs. Families across the country were making more money under Trump. The economy was doing better, but you can look at the numbers. It was 68,700. And it was a record. Okay, poverty fell. So before we get to poverty being the lowest ever on record, this is very important for people to understand who just can't understand why anyone would vote for Rob. If you look at the St. Louis Fed chart, real median personal income was at a record high of $36,426. It is now a lot lower. Okay, so $36,426 real median personal income, that's taking into account inflation. Okay. Median income. Real median household incomes hit a record high of 68,700. Personal incomes hit a record high of $36,426. If I'm reading this correctly, if I'm not reading it correctly, let me know, but I don't think I'm reading it correctly, because I'm looking at it right here. Okay. Income and Poverty Census.gov. The 2019 poverty rate of 10.5%. Its lowest rate observed since estimates were initially published in 1959. Okay. And this is very, very important because poverty was at record lows, and income levels were at record highs. Again, you vote for Trump because poverty was at record lows and income levels were at record highs. He's not the authoritarian the far left says he is. Okay, be the far left socialist, you know that. I was once a part of that. We're not socialist, but I was the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, according to the Huffington Post, and the unofficial scribe of Sanders was most hardcore voters. According to the Washington Post. At one point, my entire life I was a liberal Democrat, then became a Bernie Sanders supporter. Now I support Donald Trump and DeSantis. But I want Trump in 2024 because I want poverty to decrease and I want incomes to increase. That in addition to I want a president with the courage and the know-how to negotiate the Doha Agreement with BOC, which Biden completely botched, but that was a reversal of 20 years of failed Lincoln Project foreign policy and Democratic establishment foreign policy. So Americans were brought home in the most haphazard manner, because Biden completely botched. It was a May 1, 2021 withdrawal. They did not withdraw on May 1. That was the one of the biggest issues. But when you hear people say, Trump abandoned his voters? No, it's the current administration. AOC. In the House, Biden, in the Oval Office, Schumer in the Senate, it's Democrats who have abandoned their voters. Poverty is up and we're going into 2 years into Joe's administration. So I don't want to hear anything about Trump. I don't want to hear anything about when Democrats gleefully tanked the economy 2 years ago. They did that gleefully. Okay, without electricity chosen bureaucrats. And by the way, hit subscribe to the Stock Market Crash and Nuclear Confrontation channel. I have a very important segment on food shortages. Yes, food shortages. At least Trump is in tweeting. Do you understand? There are people in this country? You know them. They're wonderful, highly educated, morally superior, absolutely fantastic liberal Democrats. They would rather have food shortages, poverty at much higher than 2019. All of these problems, energy crisis, all of these problems, stagflation, layoffs, interest rates going up, GDP contracting, we're in a recession. They'd rather have that. As long as Trump doesn't tweet. Do you understand? The good Republican is Adam Kinzinger. Even though Adam Kinzinger voted alongside Trump in Congress 90+% of the time, voted for him 2 years ago and voted against the first impeachment, those are actually good things he did. Then he became a good Republican like Lincoln Project. Don't you get these people? Like, I don't like Trump's personality? Trump did this and that, in January, 2 years. So how do you know? The evidence is very alarming. What evidence? He didn't even get a chance to cross-examine any witnesses. This was not a trial. This was the committee is not presenting evidence. It's presenting gossip, hearsay. The fact that people are under oath is completely irrelevant. Because they can say anything and Democrats and the DOJ and the Garland will never take them to task or convict them or indict them for perjury if they indeed committed perjury. So anyway, that's a whole other story. And now you have Chuck Grassley calling up the Federal Bureau of Investigation and director. Right. And Chuck Grassley is almost certainly correct, that they're trying to yet again cover up a massive scandal. First, it was Comey with the Clinton top-secret intelligence on private servers running outside of the United States government. By the way, how do you transfer top-secret intelligence onto servers running outside of the United States? Be that even possible? Tell me a crime that Trump committed. It's ever even close to that. First of all, tell me a crime he committed. They can't even get him on a crime. You could easily indict anybody with that. And Comey went to bat, but I want to Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump 2024, believe me, I pray for that every day. Hillary Clinton must run against Trump. It's 2016, she was cheated by the Kremlin. Come on. Anyway, I want to Hillary Trump twice when I think Hillary is gonna be the nominee. I keep saying that. I say, look, I'm not right about everything. But I've been right about major calls. I said that Clinton would lose to Trump. I said that there would be a stock market crash this year and an economic decline, and we're seeing all of that. It's only gonna get worse. But he returns to DC. Tarnished legacy. A controversy will return, and then you have poverty rate 14.4% in 2020 to 10.5% in 2019. And I'm not bringing up the last year of his presidency because Andrew Cuomo got an Emmy for tanking his state's economy. But see again, they would rather have higher poverty rates than, God forbid, have Trump on Twitter. They're obsessed. The cult of personality is actually an obsession of people don't like Trump. It's nothing to do with people who voted for Trump. People will vote for Trump when a great economy. We had a great economy. I'm giving you the numbers, you can look it up for yourself. Real household, real median personal incomes were all up. Poverty was at a record low. Poverty is now higher, incomes are now lower, inflation is at 9%, 9.1%, only getting worse. What gas prices will go back up? Diesel prices, unfortunately, will go back up. And that's going to hurt the economy even more. Walmart, Target, all of these retailers are hurting now. The Guardian. He's back. Trump returns to Washington for the first time since leaving CNN. Pence to offer a roadmap for conservatives in D.C. Speech ahead of Trump. Why do you think CNN and Democrats love Pence and Kinzinger and Cheney? Because there is no way any of these people defeat a Democrat on the national stage. It would be the equivalent of a football team wanting the worst possible opponent to get into the playoffs. So it's not rocket science. And then you get I love the New York Post. And I love the Washington Examiner. And I respect the journalists there. I have no clue, what they're thinking. Condemning Trump because of hearsay and gossip is well, yeah, there's a lot of things he could have done. But you know what, he did a lot more than Hillary did. During her major scandal, which we won't get into now, where lives were lost because of her incompetence, okay. Trump did not control every single, I don't even get into it. But he didn't tell people to commit crimes. He doesn't control the minds of his supporters. Okay. And he wasn't convicted of a crime, and he wasn't given a defense during this congressional committee. And there were no Republicans on there or Trump Republicans, there were two people who are never Trumpers. You might as well have had two other Democrats. So in this hearsay and gossip about Trump that he knew his supporters were armed, he knew this, and he knew that we don't know anything that was going on other than hearsay and gossip. Furthermore, there was an interaction between Ted Cruz and a representative of a law enforcement agency we won't get into, and so I don't know what we had a great economy. And we in both the Washington Examiner and New York Post, I respect them greatly. They know very well he was set up and framed. And so I want to know if there's another, if Joe or DeSantis. I love DeSantis, too. But if Hillary, if anyone was set up and framed by the direct political rivals the way Trump was, with a dossier purchase and funneled through the U.S. government and BuzzFeed publishing the dossier, and the dossier wasn't against Twitter guidelines, even though it's completely fake news. I want to know if any other person could survive that onslaught, that media frenzy and hysteria for 4 or 5, 6 years. Trump is not perfect, okay. But nobody could survive the media that he has to deal with, nobody, no matter how civil and nice they are. Okay. The biggest issue with Mitt Romney was putting his dog on top of his car, and then nowadays, they would call for him to go to The Hague. Anyway, hit subscribe to this channel. He returns to DC. I haven't even told you why. For a speech and Trump's set for controversial return. It's not controversial to anyone, but Democrats. American First Policy Institute, and he's going to speak there, and he returns to DC after having a great economy and an economy that works for everybody. Where people were happier, generally, people were happy, you're generally on Trump, you know, he wasn't happy. The media establishment and never Trumpers, all two of them, or three of them. And there's a concerted effort to stop this man from becoming president again, despite a stellar economic performance. And by the way, 2,000 manufacturing jobs lost under President Obama, according to CNN, so and with Hunt like 300,000 to 500,000 under Trump gained before his last year in office, when Democrats gleefully tanked the economy because to help you. So I want to hear about Trump ever turning his back on his voters. No, Trump gave his voters everything he could. And it's mashed potato brains in the Oval Office now, that is, I mean, do you like the poverty and the record highs and inflation and the recession we're in now? My God, you can't deal with Trump's tweets. My God, you can't just ignore Trump's tweets. He's not even on Twitter. But let's say he gets back and can't ignore him and just enjoy a great economy and leave it at that. Because everything they level out him is a lie. Anyway, he didn't. He wasn't installed by the Kremlin. And if you find out, God forbid, the Democrats are even more corrupt than you thought. It's not a plot by another country. They're actually more corrupt. And it seems as though Donald Trump is back. I think a lot of people can finally see the light at the end of the tunnel. That's what I got for you guys though.